Hello there and welcome to World News Program, streaming to you live on All 24 News. I'm your host, Karim Zachary, and up next are the top stories. Dozens of Palestinians, including children, were killed in 4 Zionist massacres in Gaza within just 24 hours. And heat waves are worsening the conditions in displacement camps, leading to more deaths. Hamas warns against replacing UNRWA and urges international action and confirms casualties despite failed Zionist pressure. And Palestinians continue to defy the aggression, returning to their destroyed homes in Khan Yunis. That's next. Also coming up, President Abbas praises Algeria's support, which promises to continue efforts for Palestine's UN membership, and pro-Palestine protests expand globally, condemning Gaza aggression, while in Berlin, police intervene in a demonstration at the parliament. Also ahead, Algeria sees improved economic indicators for 2023 with a projected GDP of $400 billion. The government continues to reject that and announces a 4.5% increase in the Algerian dinar against the dollar. Stay tuned, the details are right after the break. Hello again and welcome to the program. Fast in our file, in just 24 hours, the Zionist occupation forces carried out 4 new massacres in Gaza, resulting in the deaths of 32 people and injuring 69 others. This makes the toll stands at over 34,000 martyrs and 77,000 wounded since last October. Among the recent victims were 8 Palestinians, including children and women, killed in airstrikes on homes in Nusayrat camp and Rafah. Despite limited resources, Gaza's civil defense recovered martyrs from mass graves in Khan Yunis' Nasser medical complex. Operations to retrieve bodies documented under rebel distress calls are underway, albeit challenging without heavy equipment. Euro-Mediterranean Human Rights Monitor notes increased deaths in Gaza's displacement camps due to heat waves and diseases, especially affecting children and the elderly. Here's Zahra Farjani with the report.
In the heart of Rafah city, a desperate attempt to beat the heat. This touching moment captures the harsh reality for thousands of displaced Palestinians living in makeshift plastic tents. With temperatures soaring, these shelters have become akin to ovens.
And we live there under the sun and heat. I suffer from high blood pressure and I am not allowed to stay in the sun or on the fire. We struggle a lot. When we go for water, we have to wait in long queues. And sometimes we don't get any. When someone brings water, we fill 1 bottle.
These children bear the scars of the Zionist war, their skin blistered by airstrikes and tank shells, but the rising temperatures and relentless sun rays only add to their suffering.
Regarding humidity, it is the most tormenting thing for us. Our lives are all about the sun, nothing but the sun. They are not allowed to be exposed to the heat because it worsens their illness and burns. What do? Where do we go? Sit in the streets? No one accepts this situation.
I was injured in an airstrike in Deir al-Balah. The injury was to my thigh. It got fractured. The plate needs a suitable environment, neither too hot nor too cold.
Daily life for Palestinian refugees in Gaza is a struggle against the odds, with waste piling up, sewage systems failing, and clean water in short supply. The risk of disease looms large, and amidst all this, the relentless airstrikes by Zionist forces continue to claim lives.
Palestinian refugees are left to face their fate alone as they endure extreme heat and face an increase in risks due to heat waves amid dire environmental and health conditions.
Despite international outcry and calls to end the Zionist genocide in Gaza, the airstrikes persist, spreading diseases and further weakening an already fragile healthcare system.
The Palestinian Islamic Resistance Hamas warned against replacing UNRWA with any other international body, expressing concern over a report disputing allegations by the occupation. They see the calls to establish an external oversight body as targeting UNRWA's political dimension and shifting responsibility from the UN General Assembly.
Undermining the efforts of UNRWA, potentially leading to the formation of an alternative international organization outside the purview of the United Nations for its oversight and supervision. This effort appears to target UNRWA's political significance within the context of nefarious schemes intended to dismantle its role as a political advocate for the Palestinian cause of Nakba.
The Islamic Resistance Movement disclosed that it received a response from the Zionist entity regarding a proposed prisoner exchange deal delivered through Egyptian and Qatari mediators in April. Khalil al-Hayya, Hamas's deputy head in Gaza, mentioned that they would review the proposal and provide a response upon completion of their assessment. The Palestinian resistance affirmed the failure of Zionist military pressure, resulting in the deaths of numerous Zionist prisoners. Al-Qassam Brigade's Hamas's military arm shared on a video in its Telegram channel featuring angry Zionist prisoners and discussing harsh conditions caused by the Zionist bombings. The message conveyed to the prisoners' families highlighted the failure of military pressure, which prevented them from celebrating Easter together due to Zionist actions. Many Palestinians defiantly returned to their destroyed homes in Khan Yunis amidst escalating Zionist aggression, rejecting all attempts to displace them from Gaza. Osama Ayadi reports.
Residents of Khan Yunis began returning to their city on Sunday as the Zionist entity announced that its troops were pulling out after months of intense onslaught against civilians in the area. Palestinians returning to their home found only a devastated landscape of bombed-out homes and rubble-strewn streets.
Being in my own home is a lot better than being in other people's homes. I fixed up my home. Look at what I did. I used blankets, curtains, and the backs of wardrobes to make it livable. I'd rather stay in my own home than stay in other people's places. No one bears the burden of the other. In my place, I live freely to do whatever I want. I can go out, come in, cook, fetch water, and do everything at my convenience.
Nearly 400,000 people lived in Khan Yunis and its suburbs before the start of the Zionist onslaught. The area is now in ruins after months of bombardment.
I had 3 bedrooms, a toilet, kitchen, and a salon. The kitchen was gone. The girls' room was destroyed, but I covered myself and my home, as you can see. And thank God I cook and live as if there is no war.
A straggle of men and boys riding donkey carts, bicycles, and the odd pickup truck headed north out of Rafah in the far south, where more than 1.5 million Palestinians have taken refuge from airstrikes and fighting on the ground.
We had a 3-story house. As you can see, it was reduced to rubble. We are completely devastated. Our cars were destroyed. I bought my car 1 month before the war. As you can see, I didn't enjoy it. God knows how I managed to collect the price of the car. Everything was destroyed.
With everything around them in ruins, Palestinians found themselves standing among smashed concrete and corrugated iron roofing. Not a single structure within sight appeared untouched by the Zionist war machine. While large swathes of the city flattened, Palestinians showed their steadfastness in refusing the Zionist efforts to push them out of their homes and their own country.
And in another development, President Mahmoud Abbas expressed deep gratitude on behalf of the State of Palestine for Algeria's unwavering support at the political and diplomatic levels. During a meeting with Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, President Abbas praised Algeria's consistent stance on the Palestinian cause, particularly its submission of a draft resolution to the UN Security Council for Palestine's full UN membership. Mr. Abbas also extended his regards to Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune on the occasion. Algeria strongly criticized the international community's inaction on the Palestinian issue and reiterated its commitment to facilitating Palestine's full UN membership. Speaking at the 5th conference of the Association of Parliamentarians for Al-Quds in Istanbul, Algerian National Assembly, or the Upper House of Parliament Speaker, Salah Koujil, represented by the Vice President Ahmed Kharshi, emphasized Algeria's diplomatic efforts to expedite the Palestinian cause's resolution and secure full UN membership for Palestine.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
لقد انتقلت أغلب وحدات المجتمع الدولي.
Most of the international community has shifted from treating the victim and the perpetrator equally regarding crimes against humanity in Gaza to criminalizing the victim and justifying the perpetrator's claim. This represents a serious deviation from the global order, lacking in responsibility values, urging the necessity of imposing reforms for a fairer and more equitable world order. Algeria, since its accession to the status of non-permanent member of the UN Security Council, strives to amplify the voices of Arab and African peoples, especially those facing occupation. Algerian diplomacy is racing against time to fulfill its mandate and accelerating the resolution of the Palestinian cause in line with the Palestinian people's will. Efforts continue in coordination with partners in Arab and Muslim countries and non-aligned members to enable Palestine's full membership in the UN and hold the Security Council accountable to history, following the directives of President Abdelmajid Tebboune.
رئيس الجمهورية السيد عبد المجيد تبون.
Student protests against the genocidal war on Gaza spread from U.S. universities in North Carolina and Arizona to Europe and Australia, marking a global wave of demonstrations. Sofian Kinturi has more on the story.
University campuses globally are standing in unprecedented solidarity with the Palestinian cause. From George Washington University in the US to Sciences Po University in Paris, students are rallying in massive numbers to condemn the injustices inflicted by the Zionist entity on humanity.
The first one was like having a general assembly with the administration and the student community, professor community and employees, but also to have like that they give up all the sanctions, like the threatenings that they did to us, like during the occupation, like because for sometimes we thought like they told us or they made us understand that if we continued, we would be expelled from the university.
The student movement is intensifying to amplify the voices of the oppressed, demanding that the international community act against Zionist atrocities committed against Palestinian civilians.
As we've seen for the past 6 and change months, there's a genocide that's been going on in Palestine, and it's one of the well-documented genocides of our time, and people and students cannot go on with their day while watching everything unfold on their screens.
The movement's gone global, with academic youths everywhere expressing their commitment to justice and demanding action against the Zionist atrocities on innocent Palestinians.
I'm showing solidarity with the people of Gaza, people of Palestine, who have experienced 6 months of besiegement, bombing. As a mother, I am really distressed at seeing the amount of children that have been killed and mothers. 70% of those who are killed are women and children. So it's really, really distresses me.
Crossing borders and cultures, young people are uniting for justice and peace. It's clear, today's youth is gearing up to be a driving force for change, championing basic human rights worldwide.
In a related matter, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights expressed concern over the arrest of hundreds of students during pro-Palestine demonstrations at American universities. Spokesman Jeremy Lawrence described police intervention as an excessively harsh response to the protests.
Down throughout the country.
This is insane. I just saw police use unnecessary violence for peaceful protesters. I saw police knock students to the ground. Clearly you see a bunch of arrests going on. People were pepper sprayed. This is a school. Like, why is this happening?
Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of Palestine supporters gathered in London for a major national demonstration marking the 13th consecutive month of protests against Zionist aggression. Organized by the National Alliance for Solidarity with Palestine this time, demonstrators demanded an end to the ongoing war and called for a halt to arms exports to the entity, renewing their call for a ceasefire.
It's just that this indiscriminate bombing of Gaza is far worse even than anything the Israelis have done in the past. And they've done some terrible, terrible things in Gaza and the West Bank in the past, but this is worse than anything. It's time we stood up, the world stood up, the international community stood up and said no and put a stop to it.
To a different story now, the Sahrawi Polisario Front reaffirmed the UN Security Council's responsibility in implementing the 1991 agreement between Sahrawi and Moroccan parties. On the same occasion, they condemned Moroccan attempts to evade obligations and urged the African Union to uphold its founding laws.
The National Secretariat emphasizes the importance of the 1991 agreement in the UN-led peace process, calling on the Security Council to enforce it. They condemn Moroccan tactics aimed at imposing control, including non-political areas like sports. The statement reaffirms the Polisario Front's commitment to Sahrawi self-determination and independence, vowing to defend their homeland through all legitimate means.
And in a different story, Algeria's finance minister, Aziz Fayed, announced a 4.1% economic growth rate last year, citing strong performance across sectors. Positive indicators include a balance of payment surplus of over $6.5 billion, foreign exchange reserves reaching $69 billion, and public debt stabilizing at 48% of GDP. Mr. Fayed expects GDP to surpass $400 billion in the coming years, leveraging the country's economic potential.
Le PIB va exploser.
Algeria anticipates significant rise in its gross domestic product, aiming to reach $400 billion by 2026. International financial bodies initially projected a GDP of $350 billion, based on an oil price of $80 per barrel. However, with the oil prices potentially averaging $85 or $90 per barrel, Algeria expects to surpass the $400 billion mark. Furthermore, investments in the agricultural and industrial sectors are also expected to contribute to this growth, highlighting diverse resources supporting the GDP increase.
Algeria's finance minister reiterated the country's refusal to resort to external loans. He highlighted a decline in external debt to $924 million, less than 1% of GDP, with internal debt around $3.2 billion, some owed to the private sector.
L'apport des deux institutions, la Banque mondiale et le FMI, dans le
Algeria has opted against borrowing from international financial institutions for years, considering it a sovereign decision. Instead, we rely on internal financial resources, with their current debt standing at $3 billion. This comprises $1 billion in public debt and $2 billion from the private sector, amounting to less than 1% of the gross domestic product.
And in other world news, on Saturday, Ukraine targeted Russian refineries and an airport with drones, causing fires at the oil refineries in Krasnodar. Simultaneously, drones struck Koshevsk military airport. Ukrainian Energy Minister reported Russian missile strikes on Ukrainian energy facilities, resulting in equipment damage and one worker injury. Russian air defense intercepted 66 drones in Krasnodar and 2 aircraft in Crimea. Confirming the attacks, Ukrainian Air Force commander revealed Russia launched 34 missile strikes with 31 intercepted. Still with the same file, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called for urgent air defense and weapon supplies following Russia's attack on Ukraine's energy sector. In a video message on Saturday, he emphasized the need for adequate defenses to protect cities and gain an edge on the front lines. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, meanwhile, announced $6 billion aid to a package of $6 billion to Ukraine, including support for air defense, anti-drone systems, and artillery ammunition. Zelensky welcomed the assistance, foreseeing improved stability on the front lines.
I'm also pleased to announce today an additional commitment of $6 billion through our Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative. That will allow us to procure new capabilities for Ukraine from U.S. industry. This is the largest security assistance package that we've committed to date. It will include critical interceptors for Ukraine's Patriot and NASAMS air defense systems, more counter-drone systems and support equipment, significant amounts of artillery ammunition, and air-to-ground munitions, and maintenance and sustainment support.
Let's turn out to more stories now in the news in brief.
President of the transitional period in Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré, accused Côte d'Ivoire of sheltering those who destabilize his nation. Traoré, in an interview for Burkinabe state television, called for an end to what he called hypocrisy at the level of relationship between Ouagadougou and Abidjan, adding that Ivorian officials openly offend Burkina Faso.
The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs warned of the worsening crisis in Sudan, stressing that about half of the country's population is in urgent need of assistance to stay alive. The UN office explained in a statement that the displacement crisis witnessed by Sudan is the largest in the world, reiterating its appeals for the provision of the necessary funding to meet the current challenges, including economic difficulties, disease outbreaks, and climate-related risks.
The United States of America intends to withdraw about 70 soldiers from its forces in Chad within the coming days, coinciding with the organization of the presidential elections in N'Djamena on May 6th. Chad counts about 75 U.S. Special Forces soldiers on its territory, among the Green Berets, who are tasked with helping the Chadian army in the fight against terrorism.
The organizers of the upcoming Olympic Games, scheduled in France this summer, received the Olympic flame on Friday at the Marble Stadium, where the first Olympic Games in its modern system were held in 1896 in Greece. The Olympic torch left Greece on the historic sailing ship, which sailed on Saturday from the Greek port of Piraeus towards Marseille.
And finally in our news, amid Sudan's year-long conflict, the 8th Aswan International Women's Film Festival in Egypt became a platform for Sudanese artists to express the nation's despair through cinema. Salman Nasib reports.
This week, Sudanese directors and actors made their way to Egypt, harnessing the power of cinema to shed light on the devastating war ravaging their homeland and the world's indifference to it. At the Aswan International Women Film Festival, Sudanese filmmakers showcased 5 short films highlighting the country's plight.
This is the right time for us to speak out and raise our issues, even if it's a simple production, but it is an opportunity to shine a light on issues that are often ignored within the society.
In the wake of Bashir's ousting, Sudan initially saw a glimmer of hope in a civilian-led transition. However, this hope was dashed amid violent power struggles among rival generals. Now, Sudanese filmmakers and actors are determined to reignite that hope.
The current conditions are difficult, but Sudanese film production is still the result of suffering and all previous productions, whether the film You Will Die at 20 or subsequent productions, were made under oppressive regimes. And now the repression has increased, and I don't expect the film industry to stop in Sudan because there is interest from us and others. So let's hope this doesn't stop.
In a Sudan yearning for change, a new wave of cinema has emerged, fueled by the energy of the revolution that ousted Bashir. The journey of Sudanese filmmakers and actors to Egypt this week signifies a powerful commitment to using cinema as a tool for awareness. This emerging wave of cinema serves as a beacon of resilience and a testament to the enduring spirit of the Sudanese people.
Well, now we reach the end of our news. Thank you for tuning into our channel. Until next time, have a good one.